Well, hello YouTube. Welcome back to Bison's Aquarium. We're going to start on part 2 of setting up the octagon tank, and I've got a bunch of plans. We're still waiting for the silicone to cure. I want to give it one more day. I want to give it a full 24 hours, and but we can go ahead and start working on some things. Now I've got some of these suction cups that holds airline, and yes, it's cheap, it's very flimsy, and if you've got a stiff cord or stiff air hose and you try to bend it, it's going to pull it up out of the other one because they just don't hold very tight. But for what I'm going to use them for, they'll work fine. So what we're going to do is we're going to use these for the bubble wall, and I'll know where I want to put that bubble wall once I get, before I put my substrate down. And we're going to use this to stick those to the bottom. Now these don't work very good, so I'm going to have to silicone them. But I want to make sure that it's where I want it all the time, and then all I have to do is just unplug it and plug a new one in it and set it in place. But the air hose will be under the gravel, and at least that's what we're going to try. We're going to try to go under the gravel, and we're going to have the air valve right here, and I'll give you a closer look here in a second. Then we'll take the hose and run it to one of these corners, whichever one's going to be the more convenient. Probably this one right here. We might just go outside there like so. And I'm thinking I want to put my bubble wall right about right here. Or perhaps right here. Yeah, probably right there. I want it to kind of be in the center of the glass coming up, because remember, I'm going to have that big rock right here and those leaves coming up. So what I did, I don't like my rocks touching the glass. I don't like the gravel touching the grass where you've got weight on it. So what I did, I found a bath mat in the trash yesterday. It had all these suction cups on it, but it's the right material, and it's slip proof, and you can put it in water, and it's basically rubber. So I'm going to lay that right there. Now I don't know what kind of problems this will cause in the future. We're basically going to be experimenting. So we're going to have to silicone these things outside of this pad. And we're going to have the rock kind of right here. So we're just going to put that pad right there, and then we'll run our air line around, and I'll show you what I'm doing. So we've got our air valve right there. We got this pump that's going to go right here, and imagine another one of these right here. So we're going to have a pump in this corner and a pump in that corner, but this one here is going to set there like that, and it's going to be at that height. Alright, now the other one that we put over here, which is in my 10-gallon tank, we don't want them to both be the same. So what I did, I need to put you on a tripod, so hold on a minute. So what I did was I took apart one of these old pumps, took apart one of these old gravel vacs that was, this thing is about junk where the hose is. This part can be used for a better hose, but it had this with it, and this thing, you can pump that thing and pump it and it will not suck any water up in it because the pump's bad. So I got a real nice gravel vac, so I didn't need this, so I just decided to rob this piece out of it, and it just so happened to be so close to being the right size that I was able to adapt it. So I needed that to reach down to the bottom. I want to get as close to the bottom as I can, to about, I don't know, 3 inches above the substrate. That way this pump here is getting all the top and this pump here is getting all the bottom. Now whether this is strong enough to be able to pull from that far, I don't know. We're going to find out. So what I did, in order to adapt this to it, this pipe fits in that too loose. It'll just fall right off. Okay? So it actually did fit in this real snug. So I'm putting that in there about a 1/2 inch. Alright, so now this has been extended. So now we need to put the end on it, this thing right here. Well, it's too loose for that. So we cut a little bit off of this one, 1 inch off of this one, since we knew that it would go inside of it, and we put that up in there about a 1/2 inch, and then we put the end on it, because remember this end actually went on that. So now we just slide that up on there. Voila, we have a tube that goes down to my substrate. Will probably come up to about the wood, and that'll give me about 4 inches from the bottom. So with those both circulating, I think that it will keep this tank really clean, because remember, those are 4 10-gallon tank, and I'm sure they're rated for even higher, and I think that'll work just fine. But anyway, that's the plan for this. We got the air controller. We're going to block this end off with a rubber tip, if I can find one. Well, I went out and got a one of them push pins that goes on a washer that holds the stuff under the hood of your vehicle, and I pulled the pin out of it, and it just happened to be the same size as the piece of hose that I had. And I used to fill them up with screws and just put a screw in it, but that looked kind of tacky, so I found that little cap that had the same size as this and just cut it short enough to go inside there to block that air off. So now we've got a stopper here to stop this one up. These will be stopped up by the control valve. So we got one in, none going out, and that will rest right there like that, and then this other pump will be right here, so we're going to have a pump going from the top and a pump pumping from the bottom. Alright, as far as my pad goes, we're going to put this rock in there, just like so. And we're going to put that right there, just like that. Then I haven't decided whether I want to put this on the front or the back of that. I think the front would work, so I need to get something to stand on. Because I got to deal with the rock and the leaves at the same time. I need to hang that one right there. And we're going to have to take this in and out a few times. Alright, something like that right there. Then we'll bend these back. Fan it out a little bit. And we'll do something like that right there. Alright, and that will hide these tubes on both sides at the same time. And then I'll just put my gravel in around everything. But first, I have to decide what I want to do for a bubble wall. I got this thing right here, and the end got broke off, so I got to figure out how to fix that. I've got a nipple that I found that I could possibly drill that out and then epoxy that. But I think that's too big of a wall for this tank. So I think I'm just going to just get a ball, to put there, so where it's a round one instead of a I don't know, a bubble wall would be nice. I have one in the 20-gallon tank, but I see this one's cracked here. Of course, it don't matter. Just bigger bubbles would come out of it. But that would be a nice one for like the 55 or, yeah. Actually, that's a little bit too much bubbles. Anyway, I want to get a smaller one to put here. So I'm going to run a hose to right here, at least I know. Somewhere in the middle here. So we're going to go ahead and stick these down with some silicone. You don't need much. So we're going to go about right there. And we're going to stick that down. And do the same thing with this one. Just need a drop in the bottom of it. And we're just going to push those down. Now, I've never done this before. I'm just thinking that this would actually help me out a little bit better, and it'll hide my hose, because I don't like all my hoses being seen. So, out of sight, out of mind. We want people to see the fish, not the equipment. And we're just going to go all the way around. About every 3 inches. And then we'll put 2 more there. And then the last one will go right in front. I'll show you what I mean. We got those running around, all the way around. And the last one is going to be pointed. And I've got it pointed in the wrong place. The last one's going to be pointed kind of like that, so that it's not such a big bend on it. So it'll come through here and it won't have to bend so hard to go up this corner. So that's what we're planning on doing, is going up this corner. And the gravel will hold it down. And I can pull it up, and we may even put a couple more of these. Matter of fact, why don't we just do that? I'll just put 2 more. And the reason we're doing this with the silicone is because these things won't stay to the glass. They're cheap. So if you want suction cups, you don't want to buy those. So I only got 2 left. Alright, so we have it running around on the outside of the pad, and then it goes up the back wall. Now when that dries or cures, it ain't coming off of there. And I'll be able to route my hose around and up and just past the filter, which is going to set right there, and that will come up through there in that hole and go in behind there, come in. Actually, we might just kind of come up over here and connect it here. So we really only need one, but I have this. I don't have a splitter, so in case I ever want to add something else, I got it. So that's what we're shooting for, and we're going to shoot with gravel like that. And I was thinking about, I don't know what it would look like, but to take the pea gravel that I got that's in that and all the rest of my tanks and bust up the lava rock to the same size as the pea gravel and just mix it together. I wonder what that would look like. That would look pretty cool. We'd darken it, but I kind of want to keep the same theme, you know, around all my tanks. And this one's going to be a community tank, so we're going to take the blue grommies out of the bedroom and put in here. We're going to take the Placo out of the 20 and put in here, so the 20 gallon will be empty. And then I'll take the goldfish out of the 10 gallon tank and put it in here. And then the 2 rosy reds will get to meet Jake. And the crebensis will go in this tank. So we're going to have a Placo, 2 blue grommies, a curbensis, and a goldfish. And may add guppies later on down the road. We got to get some color in there. We got color with the blue grommy and the red, white, and blue grommy, and we got some color in the curbensis in his tail, but we want to brighten up some colors. We want to put some bright colors in it. So that's the plan. So now what we got to do is put our substrate in it once all that cures, which will be tomorrow. These I ain't worried about curing 24 hours because they're not stress holding. These are holding stress, and we don't want to we want to wait for that to cure 24 hours before we add any water. You're safe after 24 hours. So the next thing we got to do is put our substrate in it, and that will be tomorrow. So the reason I don't like my rocks setting on the glass is because if you got a sharp point on the bottom of a rock, it can work into a piece of glass. I just prefer it not to be setting on the glass by itself. This one's done a little different. Those rocks all in the other tanks are there setting on top of the gravel. This I want to bury bottom of the rock, and that'll make it look like these are actually growing out of the gravel. So that's why we're putting a pad under this one. And you know, if I wanted to add a rock here or something like that, maybe this one right here, add it right there. That's a little bit big. We'll have to find us a better rock. I think there's one in the 10-gallon tank that we can put in it, and it's low profile, and it kind of comes down to the sharp point, so it kind of looks like it comes into the gravel. So that'd be pretty much all I do to it. I thought about getting one of those hanging things in here, like the Avatar. That would be pretty cool to have one of those hanging right here. I'm going to have to investigate that on YouTube and find out about them Avatar pods in the center. I think they're just hiding places, but they might be a plant, I don't know. Anyway, there you have the plans. Alright, now we've got the top that we need to deal with. Alright, we got the hole cut for this one. Now, I don't like this top for the simple reason it was just cut wrong. Plain and simple, it was just cut wrong. Somebody didn't cut this right. This thing is hanging right on the edge of this piece here, and if you don't have that turned in a certain way to where it catches every so often on all corners, this thing's going to fall through if you set anything on it. And I may have to make something new, I don't know. I may just make a hood to go on it that sets down on it and not put anything here. I'd like to have this here because of the bubble wall. The bubble wall will bubble up, and whatever's above it in an 8-inch surrounding from it is going to get wet. So I don't want my wood getting wet. So we're going to have to try to make something like this, but the problem with that is we need to cut this out for the next pump. Let me try something here. Alright, well we can do it that way right there, because that misses. We could do it that way and then cut out let me get this out of the way because we don't need this in there right now. And we'll figure out where this is going to go and just cut out a piece right here. That way we still have this lip right here that's going to set on there. So we'll have a spot that we cut here for this, and we've got this spot. So it's going to be held up right here and right here and right here. So it's not going to go down in there. And that will allow me a spot to feed. I want to straighten that up. Somebody did a really terrible job cutting that. Look how crooked that is, man. No pride in their work. That's just awful. So what I'll do, I'll just take and draw me a line there, straight edge, and then straighten that up and then just cut it right there. Drill a hole here first in this part, wherever it's going to corner. That way you got a nice rounded edge and not a straight shot like that looking terrible. You know, you want to transition into that corner and then come out, and that'll be nice and straight across there. So that's what we'll do. Alright, so now we've got this piece that we cut or trimmed to fit. So now it'll be pulled forward. It's still on the ledge. And now that it's on here, we can put our pump in place just to test it out. So we've got our pump here that's going to fit. Then we've got our pump that's going to fit over here without moving anything. That'll fit there. The hose will come up through here or up through here. We haven't decided yet. Probably up through here. We can put that right there. So that'll keep the bubbles from hitting any of the wood, and it gives me a place to feed. So I'm going to clean this up a bit, and that should do it. I'll clean that up. We'll wait for the silicone to dry tomorrow, and we're going to start putting water in this thing. Hopefully tomorrow or the next day. Probably tomorrow, because I'm getting impatient. So there you have it. I hope that looks good to you guys. I'm hoping it's going to look good. We're going to have the light that came off of the tin that we just put on it. I'll show you that one. We got this light that we're going to put on it, the Nicrew, and this is going to be a sweet tank. So there you have it. Had to have old Mr. Bison's workshop help me out with this. I don't know how to do this stuff, so I had to send it over to Bison's workshop. Go over and check him out, man. That guy's crazy. Something wrong with him. Anyway, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe. You guys have a good one. Later.